Welcome back.
We are back
to our show. We are here with, I am Gary.
Oh yeah, we didn't do this last time.
Nope.
Hey everyone, Peter.
We're relearning how to do a podcast on the fly. We typically introduce ourselves so people know who's talking. So I am Gary.
I already introduced myself. I said I'm Peter.
And who are you?
And I'm Gianna.
So we brought Gianna back. She did okay on
Here I am.
her first attempt, so we'll bring her back.
Give her a second shot.
Give it another try. So anyway, so I was at the gym the other day. And when I'm at the gym, I don't really do a lot. I just network. I just talk to a lot of people.
Harry, that's not good. You should do both.
Yeah.
Actually, you're texting us saying, "Hey guys, I just ran into this person. This is great."
In my defense, I attempt to do a lot.
Yeah.
But then people keep coming over and talking to me. Because,
yeah, and you're a self-proclaimed, I don't like to socialize.
Yeah, that's true. I don't. But they still talk to me anyway. I'm not going to be rude.
Fair.
I don't believe in rudeness. But I know a lot of people. I've coached in town for a long time. I've lived in town for a while. I worked in town for a long time. So anyway, so they come over and talk to me. However, this time they weren't talking to me. They were just standing near me and I was eavesdropping.
With your shocks on?
Yeah, because that's true. I wear shocks. And so I can hear my podcast that I'm listening to, but I can also hear everybody else around me. And these two gentlemen were having just a discussion. And I think it revolves something around, I missed the beginning of it, but it was something around the guy having not been there for a while, like not having been at Planet Fitness. So it was almost like oh, hey, like I haven't seen you in a while kind of thing. And the guy responded to that by saying, well, we're all going to die anyway. So
it doesn't matter if you go to the gym or not. We're just here to socialize.
Whatever.
So that was the thing.
Who cares? We're going to die anyway.
And I just remember in the moment, I was like, it's interesting. That's an interesting. And I feel like a lot of people kind of fall back to things like that. Maybe not that exact, sentence or whatever, but they fall back to something like that to excuse not doing the thing. Right. And so have you guys ever heard someone say that, or have you ever used that yourself?
Yeah, I do not, but sure. People, I do not say those things.
Some people. So,
look, it kind of goes back to the last show is we all have justifications for our own behavior. And so for some people, if they haven't figured out how to change the things about themselves that they would like to, then they say that type of crap, right?
Yeah.
I think I've used it before, but to spin it in more of a positive way. You and I have talked about this. I forget, you said there's some actor that on every single show, movie he's on, he always uses a line like, it's just not that serious.
Yeah, no, it's Bill Murray.
Yeah.
He says something along the lines of, it just doesn't matter.
Yes.
Right. So it's like in just about every movie, or at least in many of his movies, or when he's doing his in live performances, it's sort of a message he's giving to society, where he just says, it just doesn't matter. In his case, he's not doing it to give an excuse to...
He's using more of the stoic argument.
He's doing more of the stoic thing. Yeah. In the end, we're all human. We're only here for a little while.
It's essentially relax.
Yes.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, don't take
that's the way that
seriously.
I would use a phrase like that. Not we're all just going to die anyway. I more use it okay, I'm feeling very overwhelmed. It's okay.
Yeah. I think in this way, the way that this gentleman used it, it was kind of... It's flippant, right? And it's this idea of I don't have to try. If I'm just going to die, what's the point of doing all of this stuff anyway? But I think what he's missing, or at least what I thought of in the moment where I heard it is, so yes, we're all going to die. Okay, we all know that. Well, I know Peter's goal is to live forever. He's trying to figure that out. This is one of these longevity guys, trying to figure it out. He's spending...
Stabbing myself with peptides.
Yeah, he's on peptides.
The Wolverine peptide.
He's on the Wolverine peptide.
Howling at the moon, growing claws.
I know. Last night he had some bad food and he did some bad things. So that's probably 2 days.
By a month.
Yeah,
a
month.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. Extra peptides today. So, but I think so say you're gonna die a month from now. Right? Wouldn't you want that month to still be a good month?
Yeah, the best month of your life.
Right? Wouldn't you want to be able to do the things that you want to do?
It changes though your behavior entirely. All of the things that we do that have longevity in mind. Because let's be honest. I don't exercise. Anyways,
please continue.
I want to finish that thought.
So I exercise for a number of reasons. At this point, it's for my mental health too. But when you first start exercising, it sucks. It's ass. It's not good for today. It's not good for now when you first start. Okay. Eventually it becomes that. You do it because of later. You want to improve your health later. Gary's going to be tracking his calories because of his health later. So we do it for the later. If you're going to die in 30 days, my entire life changes.
What would you do?
30 days. Yeah, I'm not doing any of the normal habits I do. I would re-engineer my entire next 30 days to have it be the most fulfilled 30 days for all of the people around me that I could possibly. I think that's what I would do.
Right. So, but I guess what I'm saying, maybe the 30 days was like too short of a window. My point was, and I think you're speaking to it anyway, is like, it's this idea of quality versus quantity, right? So none of us really know exactly how long we're going to live, but while we are here, we want to be able to do the things that we want to do. And some of that goes back to like the health that we're in.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're lacking the ability to do those things, so if you have young children and they play sports and you're unable to go into the backyard and play with them, right? Like that might, and if that's something that you are missing out on or feel like you want to do, but you physically can't.
If you want to go traveling and all these places you have to walk and stuff.
Right.
You know?
We're going to die anyways is the short-sighted approach, right? It's to say like you can't, it's essentially the same idea as you can't guarantee tomorrow. So live how you want to today, right? I understand that argument. It's saying don't sacrifice today for tomorrow, right? Like don't live like a piece of shit for the next 20 years so that in 20 years from now, you're going to be like your body's falling apart, your mind is falling apart, right?
Right.
So it's you're essentially putting insurance in the physical and mental, body that you have, as opposed to saying, oh, well, I think it comes from a place of I can't figure out how to do it, so F it anyways. In the end, I think that's where it comes from.
I think it does too. And I think a lot of people probably use that as some sort of justification in their own mind as to like give themselves an excuse, when they do fail at something. So, if you're if you're gaining weight or you're trying not to and whatever, you're like, oh, well, whatever. It's going to die anyway, and then it kind of gives you in the moment, gives you permission, makes you feel better. Not that you're going to die, but it gives you permission. It makes you feel better that you didn't do the thing.
It makes you feel better in the short term, but in the long term, that does nothing for you.
Yeah. And so I think that's where the conversation is. And so I would say then, so what are the areas? So I think what I like to think about, and I know Peter, you probably do the same, John, you probably the same. It's like, okay, well, and Peter, you've said this out loud numerous times, like, what does my life look like 20 years from now? And, it's this idea of working with the end in mind, right? So in say 30 years, when you are, how old are you now?
45.
So when you're 75 years old, right? And in our jobs, we work with people who are 75, like at times. We've seen good 75, meaning they're like strong and they can super independent, go up and down the stairs, going to the gym,
great balance.
Yeah, doing all that stuff. And we've seen bad 75, right? So in 30 years, and Gianna, you can answer this as well, like what do you want like your life to look like? And then we work backwards from there. Like, how do we then achieve the thing versus just like, well, at some point in those 30 years, I could die. So like, whatever. Let's assume we're going to be alive.
If you don't have the end in mind, you're hoping for the best.
Right.
So it's just, you have to conceptualize where would I like to be? And then you can say, well, what are the actions and behaviors that would most likely get me to my conception of 30 years from now?
Right.
I think, right. And then so then it goes back to, again, if you can enact those habits, create a daily life that most resembles the actions that are required to get to that dream, then now you just compound that. You do turn days into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. And then you're working towards this dream that you would like to enact.
Right. And I think we do this with our clients all of the time. We speak to them in like long-term views, not like, what is your back going to feel like next week? Or what is your weight going to be like next week? Or what is it's like a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now? What is it that you want your life to look like, and work back?
Because we can plan for that.
Right. Like I have a lady right now, I have numerous people, but like I have a lady that I'm working with right now who is getting ready to return to playing like soccer and was able to get out in the yard and play with her kid and like do that stuff, like playing soccer with her kid. And that was like a huge moment for her because she's now physically able to do it coming off of an injury. But she made a comment along the lines of like, this is like more important to me than you can imagine. Like I want to be able to do this stuff for forever. So it's like, great. Well, how do we do that? Like, how do we allow that to happen for you? What are the areas that you need to work on? Right. And so it's that. So I guess then it would be like, okay, well, what are those areas, Peter? Like what would you define as the major areas that when you look out 30 years for yourself, what are the things that you look at and say, okay, these are the areas that are important to me. What does this look like 30 years from now? And then what do I have to do now to move a step closer to making sure that comes to fruition?
So when I think 30 years from now, I want to be as mentally and physically healthy as possible. We say that age is wasted on the young. Is that the statement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Have you never heard that before,
No,
John?
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
so when you're young and
I think
dumb.
it's youth is wasted on the young.
Yes. So
I see.
So we've heard the phrase youth is wasted on the young. And it's just because you don't know a lot when you're young. You don't have wisdom. When you're old, you have wisdom, but your body isn't like, it is kind of failing you oftentimes, right? So you think, how can you continue to grow and learn and be wise, right? And also still have your body do what I think that is the ultimate future, right? So I guess for me, I'm going to have grandkids. Can I still play with them in the same way that today I play with my children? Can I have low anxiety? Can I have low stress? Can I live a very fulfilled life, right? What are the ways to do that? Well, I use the tools of physical activity. So when I think of physical activity, I say, can I stay mobile? Can I stay fit? And can I stay strong? If I can do those three things, I think that makes a really happy, healthy body. Okay. I can do most things physically, right? So then I can plan for that. Well, I have to have good endurance. Well, I can go on bike rides. I can go on runs, right? I want to be strong. I can do resistance training, right? I want to be mobile. I can add some mobility training into my exercise. I plan for that on a weekly basis, right? And then I say something like, so then what else makes a fulfilled life? Well, having amazing friends that count on you and that you count on them, having deep, meaningful relationships. That's a really big deal for human beings, right? So cultivating those relationships, you have an active role in that. Don't just wait for people to invite you to do things. Do them, ask them, really seek out people that are like-minded that serve you in your life and the people around you. Create a business that you can really help people with their long-term health and wellness, right? That's a big deal. So it's like the social, the physical, and then be mindful and intentional about your state of mind, right? When you're stressed, well, why is that? Well, bring it back to the body, right? Try to release some of the tension and anxiety and stress that you're feeling in those moments. Bring it back to the body, bring it back to the moment. And so those are the three major categories that I think of I would like to improve and continue to improve as I get older. And then so if you can then just create actions towards those categories, build habits around them, work on them every day, make them a part of your life, then I think that's the best bet. And that's unique to each human being, right? That's the best bet moving forward to create the future that you would like for yourself.
John, does that resonate with you? So like you're way younger than us. How old are you?
I'm 27.
Is this something that you've even thought about, like in terms of that long term out into like your life?
It's interesting. So
Because you're going to be our age at some point. Quickly.
Don't remind. Quickly.
Yeah, I promise.
Yeah.
It happens fast.
Like specifically like 22 years quickly.
22.
That happens really fast.
I know that happens
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, once I started in the adult world, you kind of then are like, oh, wow, this is just, I have free reign to do whatever I want with my life. And that becomes very stressful. I think after you're done with whatever schooling you're done with, your world becomes very big. And that can become overwhelming and stressful because you're like, well, what do I want to do with my life? Who am I? So you have to kind of think of those things first. And then, then you try to think a little bit more long term because for so long, my life was just like, okay, 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 3 years of grad school. So those were kind of like my time increments. And when I got out, kind of freaked out a little bit. It was like that like existential crisis of like,
you were no time for long term thinking. You're just trying to figure out being an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Just trying to figure out how to be an adult. Like, what do I? And also, I feel like maybe a lot of people my age feel this way. There's so many different ways people say how to live a fulfilled life.
Sure.
So you have to find what fulfills you. And that's hard for a lot of people because, you have to do a lot of self-reflecting.
I would say when I was your age, I wasn't really thinking about this stuff at all. In the sense, there's probably like an invincibility about me thinking like, well, I'm always going to feel this way. I'm always going to look this way. I'm always going to be like, you know what I mean? Like just kind of felt like, well, I don't have to work on any of that stuff. You know what I mean? This is how I'm always going to be.
I was the same when I was 27. There was zero long-term thinking.
Yeah. It's something I developed like, a little bit later in life as you start to see more, you see more people going through the stages of life. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be like not able to walk, or I don't want to be too overweight, or I don't want to be the guy that can't like, for me, it was like I knew my kids were probably going to play sports, and I was like, I want to be the guy that can actually participate in that or coach it or make sure I got to everything. So you start to this concept of designing a life. You start to design a life that you want.
Movement's really important to me. So
Yeah.
I think being around, especially where we work, just seeing all different walks of life, you kind of then start saying, oh, wow, like that person's inspiring. I want to be like them. So then you
Mm.
kind of do start thinking, oh, I am going to get there someday. So how can I maximize it?
Yeah. And the best way to do that is to ask those people, well, what does your life look like? Like, what did it look like?
Okay, well, you know what that did to
Yeah.
me? That got me signed up for a triathlon.
I did get you signed up for a triathlon,
Good.
but it's going to be good for you. Yeah.
You're going to love it.
Have you ever heard of the concept of time buckets, Peter or Gianna?
Financial buckets, I've heard of.
Yeah. There's time buckets.
I use that concept all of the time when I make decisions around things that I do with my life.
Yeah. So I first learned this in a book called Die with Zero. I think it was Bill Perkins wrote that book, but it was the way he describes it, and Peter, maybe you think of it differently, but like basically there are essentially decades of life, 20s, 30s, 40s. And there's kind of like, for him, this was a financial book. So there's your financial capabilities during those decades and your physical capabilities, and they don't always line up, right? So when you're in your 20s, like financially, you're not making a ton of money. Maybe you're still in college, but physically you might be at like your peak, right? In which case, if like climbing, Mount Everest is a goal, even though it might cost you money at that point of your life that you don't necessarily have, you might want to do it then, right? In the sense that that's maybe the best time of your life to do that, or, and then vice versa. When you're, say, in your 80s, financially, you might have millions of dollars because you saved your whole life and it's compounded and it's done all that stuff. But physically, maybe climbing Mount Everest at 80 maybe isn't possible. Maybe it is. Hopefully, if you never know. But just looking out at your life, you can say, okay, well, more likely than not, which of those 2 decades would be the time to do the thing, right? Like whether it's physical or financial. One way to think about the time buckets is to go through that practice yourself, is say, okay, well, what are all the things I might want to do in life? You're not going to be able to know them all right now, but you can kind of have an idea. These are some goals, bucket list ideas, like or concepts that you might have. Definitely want to run New York City's marathon, right? For you.
Mm-hmm.
And when are the decades that I'm most likely or most capable going to be able to do that, and like make sure I try to schedule it during that time, even if it doesn't fit your financial stage of life, right? And vice versa. So I like the idea of that. Like, okay, like let me sit down and think. Let me talk to the people important in my life. What are the things I might want to do, and try to identify what decade that might like match perfectly in terms of physical and financial. I think what we're talking about here, though, is like, can we allow that physical portion of our life to be extended beyond maybe what we know? Like, there are plenty of people who run marathons after their 20s, right?
When
like
I finished Honolulu, I wanted to look at who was the oldest person to finish, and I believe it was 96 years old.
Yeah, so that person's like defying the time, the bucket, so to speak, right? But I think that's what we're speaking to here, is like, okay, maybe the goal of this person was, hey, I'm going to run a marathon in my 90s. And then they work backwards from there, like their entire life, to make sure that thing happens. So I'm not saying you have to only do the most physical things in your early stage of life, but the idea is like identify the goal and then figure out when that might be and then work backwards from there. How do you use time buckets? You said you use that a lot, like in your
So I just think
coaching.
of so again, my day. So in a 24-hour period, what buckets of time do I have to do a thing?
Yeah.
And it can't be everything. And so if I want to be a wicked generalist, then I dabble in things and my time buckets are kind of spread thin everywhere. I like to not do that. I like to be like an expert and dial in into just a few areas of my life. So I tend to not have a lot of interests. I tend to have a few interests. So my time buckets are kind of what I just said to you. They're physical, social, and mental, right? So my social bucket is my friends and family. My physical bucket is how, I keep myself going, keep myself healthy, be the person that, Gary had said, who do you want to be at 75? Well, I got to do those things on a daily basis or I won't get there. And then how do I stay fulfilled? How do I enjoy? How do I live a life with purpose? Those 3 things are often related, right? And I think they satisfy each other in one way or another. But I focus on those, and if something else has to be added to my life from a time perspective, then I know that something else that I already actively participate in time has to get taken away from that. And then so I make that choice judiciously. Like, is it worth it to add this new thing to take time away from this other thing? And if the answer is no, I never add it. And so that's why like my life looks very similar in routine, because very rarely, because I've curated my life at this point to be the thing that I think is the best for those like buckets, you know, those things that I'm working towards. That's how I utilize it. So I utilize it as a budget of time that answers the question for me: is this worth it to add this new thing?
Right. And you always sort of have the end in mind. Like you and I have talked about this before. Like you have an idea of
outside of that.
Yeah. Like you have an idea of like what, even with this business that you started, there's sort of a long term, like this is what I think this thing might be. And then how do we work backwards from
and then
there?
you always work towards that goal. Like then all decisions are filtered towards that goal, right? Like then it makes it simpler. Like it's not like I'm making decisions in isolation. You're making decisions off the philosophical foundation of what you want your life to be, what you want your business to be, what you want your marriage to be. So if you can like think of everything that you're working towards with the end in mind, then all decisions are filtered through that. And then the secret is that the things that you employ on a daily basis are still unbelievably fulfilling and rewarding. It's not like suffering now, right? I'm not delaying enjoyment for the future. That's not how this works. Like my life is unbelievably fulfilling and satisfying today. And it also happens to be the thing that I think will help move me forward towards that goal in the end. So I think that if you can tie both together, to me, that's the way to live the best, most fulfilled life. And I'm doing my best with that, you know?
Right. So, I mean, in doing the research for the show or just kind of preparing for the show, I came across a line that said like, death is certain, decline is negotiable.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
Is that something that you think will resonate with a lot of people?
I think so. Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Sure.
Like when I say that to you, what does that mean to you?
Well, like going back to, the conversation you overheard, if we're all going to die anyway, might as well live a life that you're proud of, that doesn't, that you don't suffer every day, and that you're doing something that makes you happy. Your body feels good. Your mind feels good. So I think you can take that and kind of spin it of, okay, I'm going to die anyway. Why don't I make every day at least one that I'm proud of and think of the long term in it?
And I think that's the take home message. I love like what you just said there, which is like, rather than use that as an excuse, rather than use it as this like, like I guess I can just, why bother, that sort of thing. Use it as motivation. Like we're all going to die anyway is motivation to be like, when you wake up every day, you're like, okay, I freaking woke up today.
Yeah.
So that's good. Let's start there.
Yeah.
And like, so today is a good day. How do I make it the best day? And then hopefully I'll wake up again tomorrow. Right. Like, I mean, it's like, I know it sounds like gruesome or whatever you want to call it. But to me, it's like motivation. How do you make the best of each day?
Yeah.
How do you work towards the long term? How do you what are the decisions you can make every day to make sure that that's the best day, knowing that it could be your last always, right? But like, if you do that consistently over time, then you stack together thousands of great days and then you live a great life, right? And hopefully everyone gets to live into their 80s, 90s and beyond. But like the way to do that is to, keeping the end in mind and then each day making decisions that help you get a little closer to that goal and use that as motivation.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should.
Yep. That's great.
I agree. You should agree.
Can I add on slightly?
Can you what?
Can I add on slightly?
Of course
Go
you
right
can.
ahead.
This is like literally nobody can do it to tell us what to do. It's like our podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if Gary doesn't like it, he goes and cuts it.
I edit out everything he says. When we create the thumbnails, it's just going to be pictures of you and I.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It's
he's
so
not even
good.
going to be on the
It's so
thumbnail.
good,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't get to choose how long we live,
Mm-mm.
but we get to choose how well we get there, right? So it is true that you will decline after around the age of 35. However, the rate at which that happens...
It's true, Gianna. You're looking in shock. It happens. Even he.
The rate at which that happens is negotiable. We get to decide by our actions how quickly that decline takes place, and we get to decide if the last 20 years of our life looks miserable or if it looks like a life well lived. And the actions that we perform today and so on and so forth determine that outcome in the end. And I think that's the mission that we're on. That's the mission that we're trying to help our clients on.
And I think it's also important to, like, for people my age to know that at any time you can pivot. You know what I mean? So if you're not happy with what you're doing right now, that you can just change it and make it a more fulfilling life. Because I think I had a different perspective because I am younger than you too. So like some things that you guys say can be overwhelming for people. They're like, oh my God, what do you mean I have to think about this far ahead? But it's like, okay, like just start with the little things. Who are you? What do you want to do?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
I think that's a great place to end the pod for today. And with that,
Live different.
Oh my, Peter.
I don't know what it is.
And with that,
be different.
be different.
Live different.